I'm sorry, Aaron, this is not a whiskey review. It's not even a bourbon review, though I am going to be accompanying it with this excellent Chestnut Farms from Barton, Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey, recommended by the ever helpful Charles at Total Wine. Charles, you are a credit to your profession and a scourge to my wallet, and I appreciate you. So, last week I was in Washington, D.C. Nice. I was in Washington, D.C., and when you go someplace that's in a different general geographic location, and you're a bit of a nerd about beer, you try and find those beers that you cannot get where you're from. I try to find those beers that I cannot get around here in the Northwest. And yeah, there was ample opportunity. It was a work trip, and good times were had. Lots of collaboration and learning and stuff like that. And now the animals found me. Yeah, so there were a couple different places and several beers. I took all my camera equipment and in the off chance I'd be able to record some video there, maybe in my hotel room, but Max, get out of here. Come on. No, come on. Out of here. Go on. Yeah, no fun. That was Max. No, not you either. No, go. Yeah, so I took my camera equipment, anticipating possibly being able to bring a beer back to the hotel room and review it, but that didn't happen. It was fine, you know. The week after time change, or the day after time change, wake up super early and you know, fly across the country and then run on a awkward schedule all week. Anyways, but even without those opportunities, there were a couple different venues I went to, one in particular, that were very interesting and that had access to some very delicious beers that I definitely do not get out here. And so I have this list that I compiled from my Untapped, follow me there at Chewing the Brew, and my memory as well, such as it may be, because some of these I put them in Untapped when I was 3 beers down, but they were small beers because I'm responsible-ish. Anyways, so the first day there, I met up with an old friend who I haven't seen in a long time, since before I got married, so more than 17 and a half years. And we went to the Old Ebbitt Grill, which is right across the street from the White House. And this was during the shutdown, so it was actually pretty nice, you know. Table, there was no wait. We were able to hold our reservation and things like that. And the food was good, and the waiter recommended lunch by the Maine Beer Company, which is a hazy IPA, or a Northeast IPA at least, and it's delicious. Has that kind of mandarin, very sweet orange note that's really nice. Nice hoppiness. Just a really pleasant beer overall. Really, really tasty. Good, highly recommended. He said it was the most popular IPA, or the highest rated IPA. I think most popular IPA or something. It has some claim to fame for popularity or quality, and it's definitely a quality IPA. And if you like IPAs and you get a chance to try it, you should definitely try it, even if, say, hazies or Northeast aren't necessarily your thing. On Untapped, I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Old Ebbitt Grill also has the Ebbitt Ale. So apparently during some various economic issues in DC, back in the 70s when things were tough, the restaurant maintained profitability by the restaurant maintained profitability by continuing to brew and sell this beer, the Ebbitt Ale. They have since returned to profitability in the restaurant business, and I guess they don't have space to brew their own stuff anymore. So now it is contract brewed by Atlas Brew Works, but it is a Kolsch. Oh, and hi, Oz. You've come to visit. Yeah. No, get out of here. Go on. Go on. Everybody has to visit. So it is a Kolsch ale, and it is brewed by Atlas Beer Works. And I had that after dinner, which perhaps isn't the best time to have a beer, but still, it was really good. It was tasty. It was refreshing. Possibly not so bright as other Kolsch beers I've had. Don't even think about it, Oz boy. Go on. Not so bright as other Kolsch beers, but for a house beer, really nice. It's the beer that's brewed on purpose to accompany their food. So yeah, it's great. It's really good. It was enjoyable. I rated that one 3.5 stars out of 5, which is technically kind of my default. Like, if the beer's okay, I rate it 3.5 stars out of 5 on Untappd. I should probably have thought through when I did my star rating system how it compares to Untappd, because that's where I do most of my ratings anyways. But that ship has sailed, so I'm not going to worry about it. Later that evening, I got back together with the coworker I was traveling with, and I had done a little bit of research beforehand. Hey, what's the best tap room near the White House? And about 3/4 of a mile from my hotel, perhaps a full mile from the White House, is a place called Church Key, which is really, really, really good, but also might be unexpected or surprising in how it presents its beer. See, on the menu for Church Key, they have the name of the beer, the style, where it's from, its ABV, its IBU, and a temperature and a temperature? What? Yes. In their tap list, they list the temperature they're serving the beer at. And I'm thinking, okay, cool, whatever. Yeah, so me, and probably you, are used to drinking your beers very close to 38 degrees Fahrenheit, at least when you pour them and take those first sips. So you have trained your palate to appreciate 38-degree beer, which is fine when you're drinking Bud Light, because that's the temperature it's designed to be tolerated at. I don't know if American IPAs are intended to be drunk at 38 degrees, but that is our refrigerator temperature. That is the temperature that those cans are at when we're storing them. And that is the temperature that the beer is still very close to when you pour it into your glass and then begin drinking. It might have gained a small number of degrees since then, and yes, it will more rapidly warm up as you hold the glass, etc. But it's still pretty cold, right? Church Key, the coldest they were serving a tap beer was 42 degrees. And only very few of their beers were being served at that. Even their IPAs were being served at 48 degrees Fahrenheit, which is downright warm. And I am not going to try to second guess them. They have apparently earned the privilege of serving several beers exclusively, even a Sierra Nevada American Pale Ale or something like that. It's an exclusive next to their name, next to it on their menu. So they've apparently earned this privilege of serving some of these beers exclusively because of how they treat the beers, right? Because of the temperature they serve it at. There were some that were served as warm as 54, which makes sense for a malty dunkel or doppel, or perhaps even a triple IPA if you're being weird, or even obviously stouts and porters. But for you and I, when we drink those beers out of our fridge, we're drinking them far, far, far colder than that. And so as I got my first beer at Church Key, well, I was in for a surprise. And it took me a bit to get over the temperature and to be able to appreciate that this was a different way of serving the beers that was done with full awareness, full knowledge and consent and intent. And I have to respect and appreciate that. and then learn to appreciate the beers in this other way. So first I had the Shark Pils, a Pilsner. You're expecting a Pilsner to be chilly and crisp and cold. And it was, but it was still served at 42 degrees or perhaps even 48. I went back to look at the menu and I didn't, and it's sold out. They moved on to other cans already or whatever, kegs already. And so I couldn't confirm, but the coldest it would have been is 42. And I recall thinking, wow, this is awfully lukewarm for a beer in a tap room. Anyways, it is a Pilsner, the Shark Pils by Seeds Brewery. It's a Pilsner from Michigan. I picked up lemon notes and a nice earthiness. So it had this really nice balance of kind of a citrus tartness and an earthiness that worked really nicely. It's just a really, really nice Pilsner. I did rate it 3.5 stars out of 5. Decent Pilsner, perfectly adequate, super nice, and a little bit weird when you're expecting it to be far colder. And you think from 42 degrees to 38 degrees isn't all that much, but it's more than 10%. And if it was 48 degrees, which I think it might have been, yeah, that's even more. That's even more. That's a lot more. That's what? 30, that's a 30, it's 10 degrees, so 30, 38, that's almost like 10% increase in temperature. That's a lot, right? And yeah, it made me realize I've really trained my palate to drink cold beers. And when the beers aren't quite so cold, they're very different. And not bad, different. Anyways, good beer. Getting my mind around the fact that these things are warm. Next one, Dopalicious by Three Sons Brewing Company. And I ended up having, I want to say I had another Three Sons, but I don't have it on my list here. So maybe I forgot to write it down. But at Dopalicious, it's a hazy IPA from Florida. And yeah, still getting used to these warm beers. And this one I know definitely was served at 48 degrees. 48 degrees Fahrenheit for an IPA, you're expecting these things to be like cold and crisp. When they're warmer, the sweetness comes out more and balances the hops more. And it's a very, very different beer. And once you get around the fact that no, this isn't lukewarm beer that sat out too long, you saw them decant it right there. You saw them pour it right there. And you know they did it on purpose and you drank it right away, or, you know, started drinking it right away. It's like, wow, this is what this beer can be. Yeah, enjoyed it. Citrus, juicy, kind of light-bodied, pretty nice for a hazy IPA. And that sweetness balancing the bitterness was really good. Next was a Dunkel. And this was the first one where it felt kind of normal for these temperatures. Malty, slightly roasty, mostly just malty sweetness. This is by Bierstadt Lagerhaus from Denver, Colorado. And I enjoyed it. It was bready, it was malty, it was perfectly adequate, and it felt like it was better suited. Like, I was more appreciating the fact that it was at this temperature, and perhaps it was my third beer at these warmer temperatures, but whatever, things just felt like they were coming together like how they were intended to be. It was starting to make sense in my mind. I wasn't crazy weirded out anymore, etc., etc. Next, and this was, I believe, one of my favorite beers of the day, or the first of my favorite beers for the day. This one I also had them do a full pour. All the others I just did in half pours, because when I'm going to drink my way through a tap list, I want to be sane by the time and still cognizant by the time I reach the end. So I'm taking half pours. And yeah, so Resurrection by The Brewer's Art, which is an Abbey-style brown ale from Baltimore, Maryland. My note said it was malty. There was some stone fruit, and there was an interesting spiciness that was kind of read as cinnamon. It was really, really nice. 4 stars out of 5 on Untappd. I would rate this a strong 3-star beers. Though, to be fair, you know, my 3.5 stars, my 3 stars to 4 stars, those are all 3 stars by my ranking system, right? They're not 5 stars in Untappd. They're not 4 stars on Chewing the Brew. That's how it is. So 4 stars out of 5 for Resurrection by The Brewer's Art. Once again, a more malt-focused Euro-style beer that feels correct at these warmer temperatures, right? It was a good beer. I enjoyed that one a lot. And they served it in this decently sized chalice. Yeah, it was really good stuff. But to finish up, my neighbor at the tap at the bar, who I had not known when I started, shout out to you, Kyle. It was Kyle, right? I hope I got it right. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Kyle. He had this as his first beer, and he commented, "Wow, this was weird," and he was still getting over the first temps when he was drinking this beer. And so I closed out my evening with this. This is the Truffle Stout by Pohjola or Pohjola or something. It is an Estonian brewery, so this is a beer from Eastern Europe, right? Estonia is Eastern Europe, I think. It is an imperial stout with truffles. Of course, a truffle stout. Keep it simple, right? Definitely roasty, definitely boozy. There was perhaps some marshmallow smoothness to the beer, but the most interesting thing, and I think the part that the truffles played, was the finish. Instead of having this really long, lingering, almost cloying sweetness like can happen with these sweet imperial stouts, instead there was this kind of savory brush, the same kind of way that that the strong hop character can come and help like cleanse your palate in a double IPA or something like that. Instead here it was this subtle savory, but it wasn't like super savory. It wasn't even the savoriness levels of Pixie Rocker from a couple months back, which was another excellent beer using mushrooms, but the mushrooms played a more prominent character in Pixie Rocker. Here, it was more this really soft, deft, subtle, savory brush that cleansed your palate and made the beer feel lighter than it perhaps was, and made you ready to drink more of it. Yeah, it was a really good beer. Truffle Stout by Pohjola, Pohjala, if you want to look it up. Highly recommend if you can find it. Super good beer. Not so weird as Pixie Rocker, though I still loved Pixie Rocker, and I highly recommend everybody who can get their grubby little mitts on it should try Pixie Rocker. This is another good mushroom beer that's probably going to fly closer to the normal standard of what people expect in an imperial stout. So that wrapped up my evening, my first evening at Church Key. Exchange phone numbers with Kyle. Tentative plans to get together the following night at the same place, right? Anyways, so the next day, we spent a bit more time trying to collaborate with some of our co-attendees at the conference. And so I ended up visiting Astro Beer Hall, and I had the Optimal Wit by Port City Brewing. Perfectly adequate wit beer. Decent, a little bit spicy, kind of sweet, light-bodied, just what you expect from a wit beer. Can't really ask for crispness in a wit beer, but I felt like this beer was flatter than other wit beers I'd had. But I mean, wit beers are, with the wheat body, you're not expecting any sort of cracker or crispness to it. So I can't hold that against them. It was a perfectly adequate beer. There is nothing to say about Astro Beer Hall. It's mostly about the drinks and the bar food, and it's also a little bit closer in town, so they get a different kind of end of the business day crowd than Church Key got. After that, we were chasing groups, and so we went over to the Hamilton, which is another restaurant there downtown. And while I was at the bar waiting for groups to show up, I had Oktoberfest, also by Port City Brewing, another perfectly adequate beer. Seems like Port City turns out just decent, middle of the road, good versions of the beers it's making. This one was and Port City I think is Baltimore as well. Nutty, malty, just what you expect in an Oktoberfest. Perfectly adequate, perfectly decent, fine. Nothing to write home about. I'm not going to go out of my way to find it, but if it's on tap and it's all that's on tap, I won't be disappointed, right? 3.5 stars out of 5. Then after dinner, with a new group, we headed back to Church Key, and Kyle wasn't able to make it. I'm sorry, I missed you, man. next time in DC. Yeah, as if the odds of us meeting up there. But anyways, I had a great time with you, Kyle. If you're watching this, good conversation, good beer, etc. Anyways, so went back to Church Key with some other new friends, and this time I knew them before I stepped in the door. And I started with Ocarina of Hops, which is a triple IPA from Minnesota. Interesting thing about this beer is they used oat and spelt, not exclusively, but at least part of the malt bill involved oats and spelt, which produced an interesting additional smoothness to the beer. They also had a type of hop, Rowena or something, hop that I haven't heard of before. Rocana, I'm misremembering. And the smoothness at those warm temperatures again read more banana than anything else. And that was a little bit off-putting. Like, I enjoy a Hefeweizen, and you're going to expect those banana and clove notes in a Hefeweizen. And you'll get some banana notes sometimes in certain Belgian beers as well. But in a triple IPA, it felt just a little weird. That was not my favorite beer of the day. I mean, it wasn't terrible. I still rated it 3 stars out of 4, but if it's 3 stars out of 4, I'm probably trying to convince myself it's better than, or I'm enjoying it more than I am. Let's put it that way. I won't say that I'm not trying to convince myself that it's better than it is, because it might be a perfectly good beer. Yeah. Anyways, it was an okay beer, and the banana was a little bit weird. Bridge too far. I finished up with a glass with a bottle of Saison DuPont by DuPont Brasserie, the gold standard of Saisons. If you want to know what a Saison is supposed to be, you drink that one. And maybe it wasn't the most adventurous or special choice, considering they still had dozens of taps I had not tried. This was a bottle from their refrigerator, but it was what I wanted, and that's what I finished my evening with. I did have drinks of District Dry, a cider by ANXO Cider of DC. It was really tart, really dry, and if you really like tart and dry, it's a great cider for that. It was my coworker's cider, and he was not a fan of it. And then the next one he got was Sweet Frenchie, which is a cider by Peckham's Cider of Tasman, New Zealand, and this one was really special. If you like sweet ciders, this is it. Though, if you're not a fan of pears, which my wife is not, you might not like it. I don't think it's a pear cider. I'm pretty sure it is not a pear cider. But there is some pear characteristic to the flavor. And also a really nice toastiness. It was a really tasty, really sweet, especially compared to that to the District Dry. It was quite an interesting and tasty cider. Yeah, so that was my drinking my way around DC, or at least visiting the same very interesting tap room twice. Shout out to Church Key. Y'all are unique, and stay unique. And if you're visiting DC, definitely check them out. So they are pretty nearby. They're like I said, about a mile from the White House. So definitely walking distance if you are hoteling near to the White House. There's a few other interesting, there's definitely other places that are worth trying. I was footbound, so walking was what I did, and that kind of defined my circle. And it was a great time. And I don't know that it'll happen again anytime soon, but I look forward to when it does, because I'm definitely going back to Church Key. Anyways, this is me, Matthew. I have been drinking my way around DC, or at least reminiscing with you about having done so, and I will catch y'all on the flip side.